Leader of the Senate.
Well, Minority Leader. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I stand to move a motion for the suspension of Order 12 of our rules with respect to floor privileges. And I move the motion pursuant to the provisions of Order 1, subsection B of the Senate Standing Order 2023 as amended. And if I have your permission to read, Mr. President, I would.
Read Order 1B.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Order 1B says, in all cases not provided for in this standing order or by sessional or other orders or practice of the Senate shall, by resolution, regulate its procedure. Mr. President, distinguished senators, the essence of my motion is to allow us specifically to allow strangers come into this hallowed chamber for the purpose specifically of the confirmation hearing in respect of the request of Mr. President and Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria in respect of the new presidential nominees to the positions of National Coordinator of the National Social Investment Program Agency, as well as the Chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, as well as the Secretary of the Commission. Mr. President, our rules in Order 12 are clear, but we are dealing with a situation where strangers outside of those specifically named in Rule 12 are to be allowed entry into the hallowed chamber. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I so move.
Well, the Senate Leader, you have moved a motion that the Senate do regulate its practice and its activities and suspend its practice and suspend its rules to enable those who are not qualified to enter the hallowed chambers of the Senate during proceedings to be allowed in for the purpose of the screening and confirmation of nominees of Mr. President. If you look at our Rule 1B, it says, in cases not provided for in the standing order or by sessional or other orders or practice of the Senate, it is the usual practice of the Senate that during proceedings, only senators are allowed into the hallowed chambers. So your motion is in order that, yes, we should suspend even the normal practice of the Senate to allow strangers to approach the hallowed chambers during sitting. Minority Leader, you may wish to second.
Thank Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I rise to second the motion moved by Leader of the Senate. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded that we do waive our usual practice of allowing only distinguished senators to enter the hallowed chambers during proceedings and allow strangers to approach for the purpose of confirmation of nominees and screening sent to us by Mr. President. Those who are in support that we waive our rules and practice say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. Yes, the ayes have it. So the strangers may now approach the chambers. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I stand to move a motion for the Senate to resolve into the Committee of the Whole to conduct the confirmation hearing. Mr. President, I so move.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I second the motion moved by Leader of the Senate. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded that this Senate do resolve into Committee of the Whole for the purpose of screening and confirmation of the nominees before us. Those in support of the motion say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Will Haja Halima Shehu take the stand? Distinguished colleagues, before us is a nominee of Mr. President, Haja Halima Shehu, for appointment as National Coordinator and Chief Executive Officer of the National Social Investment Program Agency. You may now introduce yourself, and if you have one or two things to say, you say so, and thereafter you take a few questions from distinguished senators.
Thank you, Mr. President. Praise be to Allah, in whose hands is the kingdom, and he has power over all. Your Excellency, the President of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Mr. Godswill Akpabio, the Senate leadership, distinguished senators, especially the female senators, I recognize you. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency, sir, permit me to register my appreciation and gratitude to the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, for finding me worthy of nomination for the position of National Coordinator for the National Social Investment Program Agency. I would like to tell this House, this is the second appointment that Mr. President has given me in 1 year. During the campaigns, he carved out a special directorate for social investment and humanitarian, and I was appointed as the national director of that directorate. To all those who participated fully in the presidential campaign must have witnessed how much impact the directorate had in both the state and federal level. Again, Mr. President, I say thank you. I would like to appreciate my distinguished brothers from Katsina State, Senator Abdulaziz Musa Adwa, Senator Muhammad Mentari Danduze, and Senator Nasir Sani Zangwandara. Thank you for your continuous support. I would also like to commend this great chamber for establishing an act which stands as a legal framework for the National Social Investment Program. This has long been overdue. My name is Halima Shehu from Kafindangi village in Katsina State. I had my primary education in Katsina. I then attended Federal Government College Kaduna, where I obtained my WAEC certificate. I enrolled into ABU Zaria, where I obtained a degree in English and a master's degree in international affairs and diplomacy. I then went for the mandatory youth service at Afri Projects Consortium, a project under the Petroleum Trust Fund then. Immediately after my youth service, I got a job with former Intercity Bank PLC, and I remained in the banking career for 10 years. From Intercity Bank PLC to Unity Bank and to Access Bank PLC. In the course of my banking career, I was trained on due diligence, transparency, and accountability in carrying out financial transactions. I got an opportunity to head the cash unit, funds transfer unit, clearing unit, reconciliation unit, operations and coordination unit in these banks. I also got an opportunity to be redeployed to audit an internal control department. And I happen to be the youngest and the only female in that department with the former Intercity Bank. Before rounding up my career in the banking industry, I became a branch services head, otherwise known as operations manager in some other banks, in the then only Access Bank branch in Kaduna State. I decided to resign from the banking career, because of my burning flair and passion to serve humanity. So I joined politics in 2010. By 2011, I was appointed as the Senior Special Assistant to the Executive Governor of Katsina State. In that same moment, I was also appointed as the member of the State Board of Internal Revenue. By 2016, I took a temporary assignment with the ECOWAS as a presidential election observer at Cape Verde Island. From 2017 to 2022, I worked very closely with the pioneer minister of the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management, and Social Development, from Refugee Commission to the ministry. I saw the formation of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs from its baby stage to where it is today. I participated fully in all the activities of the ministry, especially the National Social Investment Programs. In the same ministry, I held the position of the National Program Coordinator for the Conditional Cash Transfer Program. One of my groundbreaking records of achievement in the Cash Transfer Office was fully digitizing the payment process system. So I brought my banking career and expertise into play. The digitization of the Conditional Cash Transfer Program made transparency and accountability easy on the Abacha restituted funds and World Bank funds that were used in that program. It is no doubt that my being a coordinator in that program has exposed me and availed me the opportunity to come in direct contact with the poor and the vulnerables across the 36 states of the Federation and the FCT. The conditional cash transfer, as we know, covered 613 local government, 55,000 communities, and 7,000 political wards. A program that touched 2 million homes, which translated to about 10 million individuals. The digitization of that program gave an opportunity for the unreached and the unbanked to be fully coached and mentored on financial literacy. It was the first of its kind in the history of Nigeria to open over 2 million accounts in 3 months across commercial banks, microfinance banks, using payment service providers regulated and licensed by the central bank. This is my biggest achievement, because by digitizing the program became the biggest financial inclusion program, not only in Nigeria, but in West Africa at large. Distinguished members, I would like to still commend you, because what the social investment program has been lacking was a legal and institutional framework. And this hallowed chamber has done justice to the program. I'm very much familiar with all the programs. I have participated fully in carrying out all those programs across the country. I'll pause here, and I'll say thank you for listening.
Thank you. Distinguished Jimmy Kuta. Oh. Senator Jimmy Kuta, just 1 minute, give an opportunity to, she's from Katsina, so Senator Danduse may wish to say whether he's in tune with this appointment or not.
Opportunity to speak on behalf of my sister. I want first of all congratulate the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces for finding it worthy to approve the appointment of Halima Shehu Kapin Dangi. She is from Katsina and she is one of the most respected family she came from. And looking at the activities and her educational background, she works in the banking industries and she also works in Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, and she coordinates most of the activities of the ministry. So I believe this program will be very transparently and responsibly handled by this gentlewoman. Because what a man can do, woman can do better. That is why Mr. President find it worthy to appoint her as national coordinator of this social investment program. So, Mr. President, I want to urge my colleagues to support this very important appointment so that she can take a vow and leave. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, distinguished Senator Danduse. But I don't know whether the Senate heard you well. That what a man can do, a woman can do better. So, and here we have more men than women. So it means that the men can also reconsider whether to accept or reject this appointment. Am I right? Because I mean, you should have been lobbying us to accept, not to come and tell us that women are better than men. So I'm not arguing, but I think Senator Alero, you may wish to correct him.
Thank you, Mr. President, sitting in the chair, my distinguished colleagues. My name is Muhammad Adamu Aliru. I represent Kebbi Central. Mr. President, before I correct him, let me also make a comment on this appointment. I think this is a very appropriate appointment by Mr. President. He has considered her experience, he has considered her educational background, he has considered her performance, and I think it's a well-deserved appointment, and let me congratulate the nominee. Apart from that, Mr. President, social investment programs have been bedeviled with a lot of controversies in the past. Under the previous administration, it was nothing short of lack of transparency and accountability. Most of us here are living witnesses to what happened. Billions and billions of naira had been spent in order to alleviate poverty. But unfortunately, we have not seen the impact of it, or very little impact have been recorded. And that is why the poverty level in the country continues to rise. And right now, this Senate has approved over 500 billion naira for palliatives. In addition to that, we have also got $800 million from the World Bank. And this office is going to be in charge of distributing this money to the poor and the needy in the society, the poor and the vulnerable group in the society. Mr. President, how sure are we that this money will be distributed equitably and fairly so that the desired objective of reducing poverty in this country will be reduced? I read in a number of journals that Nigeria is the capital poverty of the world. I'm pained to read this kind of narratives about Nigeria. And quite honestly, we have all it takes really to remove our people out of poverty. The previous administration mentioned that they want to move 100 million people out of poverty within a period of 10 years. I'm not sure we have achieved even 20% of that. But I hope, and I sincerely hope, that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, with the support of the National Assembly, and with the appointment of ladies like this, will be able to remove Nigeria out of poverty trap. Mr. President, apart from that, there are complaints, majorly from opposition political parties, that when this money goes to the state, it doesn't go to the opposition parties. And poverty, no bounds, no barrier between APC and PDP, no barrier between Islam, Christianity, or even non-believers. And I sincerely hope that the nominee will do her very best to ensure that all these barriers are eliminated when the money is going to be shared. So I rest my case, Mr. President. I thought we were to have.
Senator Alero has dodged the issue of whether a man can do better than a woman, or a woman can do better than a man. But for the nominee, note the first question that came out. Is asking that in the past billions were spent and not much impact was noticed, and that particularly in states where monies were spent through government registers, that the opposition in those states did not have, are you noting it? The opposition in those states did not see anything. It even happened in my own state. So what he's asking now is, what will you do differently to ensure that all Nigerians are carried along, since poverty does not know any boundary? And poverty has no political boundary, no religious boundary, and all that. And so if this money is made available by Mr. President, who is president of all, irrespective of political parties, irrespective of religion, what will you do differently to make sure that this thing reaches those, the vulnerable, that these monies are meant for? I think that's the first major question. Yes, Senator Olarere, am I right?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues. Let me also stand by congratulating the nominee for being found worthy. I'm particularly interested in your CV because you have traversed the length and breadth of this agency, and you seem to have a good grasp of what is happening there. But I don't want to support what Senator Alero have just said. A lot of controversy is surrounding this issue of conditional cash transfer. He has mentioned one, I'm not going to repeat that. But there's another confusion. The word vulnerable is being used in so many contexts here, just to plan. But I think it will be necessary for this agency to really define who are the vulnerable people. Because from what we have seen in the past, you just use this vulnerable to plan in the office. When it gets to the field, the real vulnerable people are not the beneficiaries. That is the truth. Because I'm from the rural area, a very village boy. And when this conditional tracker, I don't know how many people in that rural area have access to bank. When you are registering them, you are opening an account for them. I've traveled there so many times, they have no bank account. And what you are saying, those that have no bank account cannot benefit. How do you intend to penetrate the real vulnerable people in the remotest rural areas in our Nigerians so that they can feel the impact of this program? Thank you, Mr. President.
So your second question is clear, that in view of the fact that not all the vulnerable people and poor people in the country have access to bank facilities, what will you do differently to actually reach the real grassroots who may not have access to banks? Senator Jimmy Kuta.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sitting as the chairman of the Committee of the Whole, the nominee is a vibrant and experienced public servant. She was instrumental in uplifting the life of over 2 million Nigerians when she used her former experience as a banker to digitalize the conditional cash transfer. Mr. President, the nominee, she's a round peg in the round hole, and I believe this responsibility given to her she will bring to bear with her experience the desired impact that this renewed hope agenda of Mr. President Ahmed Bola Tinubu to vulnerable Nigerians as needed. And let me use this opportunity again to thank and commend Mr. President for identifying with our talent. And I want to assure this honorable chamber and Nigerians, based on our experience and what I go through the activities of humanitarian before now, when I go to the conditional cash transfer, is the only program in that program, is the only department in that program that I was be able to see records. And I stand here before this hollow chamber to tell you, Mr. President, that most of the people I confirm from my own state, Taraba, the beneficiaries were across board. There's nobody that tell me that when they were given this money, they selected APC and left PDP. So I want to beg this hollow chamber and distinguished colleagues, let's do the needful and give the MD, the nominee of the Mr. President, an opportunity and cooperation to do what she knows how to do best. Thank you, Mr. President.
So we leave the commendations. If there's anybody with a question, Senator Omer, you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Victor Ume. I represent Anambra Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, the nominee is well experienced, no doubt. I'm very pleased with her profile of service. But from her CV, there was something I saw that agitated my mind. That's why I've been seeking this opportunity. Madam Nominee, you had in your last appointment the duties to deliver 5,000 naira by monthly targeted cash transfer to 2 million homes across 613 local governments in 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. When I saw that, I knew that Nigeria has 774 local governments. So I did a calculation and saw that 161 local governments were not covered in their duties in trying to make this money available to the poor people. I would like to know from you
why 161 local governments were not covered. Because it lends credence to what some people had raised as issue here, that this money should be available to all and sundry within the brackets. The money is meant to alleviate their sufferings. You put it on record that you were able to do that in 613 local governments, and 116 local governments were not covered. What was the reason for that? That's my question. And I know that, no doubt, given the opportunity, you have the experience to run a transparent thing. Why were 161 local governments not captured in your previous assignment? Thank you very much.
Victor, I think if you add the 6 area councils in the FCT, she probably left out 167, not 161, because outside the 774, we have 6 area councils in the FCT that will take the number to 780, because they are also treated as local governments. You understand? So that would mean that she has to explain why she left out 167. Senator Izonaso?
Thank you very much, Mr. President, sitting as chair. My name is Senator Osita Izunaso. I represent the people of Imo West. My question is very direct, Madam Nominee. There is no doubt from your CV that you have all it takes to occupy this position. So I think, Mr. President, I've made a good appointment. I congratulate you. In your last assignment, you talk about vulnerable persons. My colleague also mentioned vulnerable persons. But nobody is talking about persons with disability here. Persons with disability, by the 2018 Disability Discrimination and Protection Act, is very emphatic that 5% of employment done in Nigeria, both in the private sector and public sector, 5% of any type of palliative or empowerment should go to persons with disability. If confirmed by this Senate, are you promising us, without reminding you, that the conditional cash transfer that was launched yesterday by Mr. President, which I understand you are going to superintend, are you now promising us that 5% of the 15 million Nigerians, 15 million homes that will benefit from that scheme will be specifically dedicated to persons with disability in line with the Act, setting up the Disability Act in Nigeria? That is my direct question. Thank you.
A final question, and then the nominee can attempt to answer all. Dr. Mrs. Her Excellency Idiot, because the women should be given the opportunity.
President of Senate, distinguished colleagues, my name is Idiat Oluroti Adebule. I represent the good people of Lagos West. Some of the risks associated with the national cash transfer include corruption, misuse of the funds, not taking cognizance of the inflation effects, and of course, diversion of the funds. These are the risks that are associated with the conditional cash transfers as expressed by Nigerians. But I want to believe, having gone through your CV, that you have what it takes to protect Nigerians and the households that this money are meant for. Kindly share with us, what are those things, what are those strategies, what are those strategies that you think will better protect the households that this money are meant for? And lastly, I want to congratulate you for representing our gender very well. Thank you and well done. Mrs. Alima Shehu, well done.
Thank you, Your Excellency, and distinguished members for your question. On the first question, on why the poverty level in Nigeria has not reduced, despite the fact that a lot of funds have been invested in the social investment programs. I agree with you, distinguished, but I started by saying I commend this great chamber for putting in place a legal and institutional framework which has clearly identified the functions of the national coordinator, the governing body, the stakeholders, which includes you, the state governors, and the House of Reps. The program never had it this good. So I believe this is a step in the right direction. This will make implementations of policies and projects under the agency easy. I would like to let you know that in the 4 programs, in the social investment programs, each target a different kind of group. And I'll start by the conditional cash transfer program. It targets the poorest of the poor in the remotest of locations in the country, with a 5,000 naira bi-monthly stipend. This is just for normal consumption. The programs are structured and they have a design, but unfortunately, none of the programs have been taken into their logical conclusion. And it is only when all of these components of the program have been taken to their logical conclusion that we will find the impact in these households. So take, for instance, the conditional cash transfer started with the Abacha restituted funds of $322 million, which was aimed at uplifting only 1 million households. It was in 2018 that the World Bank funds were received, about 500 million naira, to reach more every household, before they are entitled to this grant. That is what we call the top-up. And that is the part that completely to take a co-responsibility, like enrolling their children to engage in nutrition or environmental sanitation. So while House A is receiving 5,000, House B might be receiving 10,000 naira of a household that has keyed into the coaching and mentoring of the skills acquisitions they have been taught. We inspect periodically the kind of businesses they do. And at exit, every household is supposed to spend 3 years on the program. Exited in 3 years by giving them the one-off livelihood grant. This is to say, you have completely moved to fight the poor and vulnerable local governments in each state. And that is the map that is being used to target these beneficiaries. That is why it is not in all the 717. Were exhausted without even carrying the full core responsibility. Was just piloted in 11 states, stayed within the 6 geographical zones. But I'll tell you for a fact the unconditional cash transfer program, in as much as there are criticisms, I know there are gaps, there are challenges. But I would like to tell you that the accountability process of the Abacha restituted funds and the World Bank is being supervised by the Swiss Development Partners and the World Bank. And we at the office, we don't come in contact with the physical cash, even when we're paying it, except we go to the field. So the disbursement of the cash starts from the CBN, where the account is domiciled, to the payment service providers who are regulated and licensed by the central bank. And disbursement is done by the payment service providers. It is when all disbursements are being made. Even when we became digitized, that I could monitor all that it's happening. They come back, the payment service providers report back to the bank, and a team of reconciliators of all these banks come together to reconcile what has been paid and what has not been unpaid. And the exact unpaid balances are remitted back to the CBN account. This is how transparent the conditional cash transfer is. So it is sad to say this program has not been taken to its logical conclusion. I participated fully in the next borrowing of the NAP scale-up of the 800 million World Bank loan. From beginning to it is that funds that was meant to continue on the core target, the poorest of the poor. It targets graduates and non-graduates. That program is supposed to be for 2 years. It is assumed that by 2 years, this youth have gotten another job, and they will be exited. But as it is today, even the very first ones enrolled have still not been exited. So none of the programs have been taken to its logical conclusion. For the GEEP, the Government Enterprise Empowerment Program. Okay. Okay. It's an interest-free loan that targets small and medium-scale entrepreneurs, from 50,000 to 300,000, mostly those that live in the urban area. And that program, in the 4 years that the ministry was created, was just launched in August 2021. And I think we called it like GIB 2.0. Then the homegrown school feeding. The homegrown school feeding targets pupils of public school from primary 1 to primary 3, who are to be fed during school session. So I understand what this distinguished chamber. Thank you.
Me, on behalf of the Senate, make an observation. I don't know whether the program or the programs were intentionally designed to be complicated enough to confuse even senators. Because it is the first time I'm hearing that within the program is embedded the one that she just mentioned now, that there is one they call livelihood. Livelihood means that you get 5,000, 5,000, 5,000. Then when they are now sure that you are no longer poor, that you have graduated from the 5,000, they now take you into the one they call livelihood. Livelihood is 150,000. That's what you said. So the entirety of the program will have to be reviewed because it is too much discretion. We should be ruled by law. The Act of Parliament should be reviewed. If we leave too much discretion, even we who are educated and who are in Abuja, we are not aware of the one they call livelihood. We are not even aware that there is one, another one you mentioned, that you can get 300,000. 300,000. There was even a time that nobody knew that there could be a digitalized register. But we were told that it was not good to publish the names of poor people. Otherwise, we'll be stigmatizing them. And then I'm telling them that they are poor. Am I right? But the more you reveal now, the more I get scared. So I would like you to amongst the things you will do, tell us what you will do, what your suggestions will be to enable us to make the program more transparent. So that if somebody does not have a bank account in a village, how would the person even know that after collecting the 5,000, that there is another 150,000 coming, when even senators are not aware? How would a person know that there is another one they call 300,000, 350,000 for, what do you call it? Is it a, one-off? How would a person know there is one-off coming? So the entire program seems to have been designed to be complicated, and they have even confused you, the coordinator. So one of the questions, and then the...
Where is the road to drive a Rolls Royce in Nigeria? You have stolen money, you built a mansion in your village or local government. Are you not, won't you be afraid to spend a night there? Where is the security? Now, if you look at this trajectory, you discover that it's a sort of financial crimes and corruption that we have, all of us collectively, we've not really done much about. And I'm saying this with every sense of solidarity and every sense of patriotism, brother. So the time has come for us to call evil, evil. It doesn't matter whose source is God. It doesn't matter who's benefiting from it. That's number one. So there must be collective responsibility. Number two, as I begin to round up, we must also, particularly for my colleagues in the anti-corruption platform, the time has come for us to begin to look at more of prevention than enforcement. Enforcement is a very strong tool in our hand. We are going to apply it very seriously. But again, I discover that the incentives are there all around us in Nigeria. And I'll give you an example. You see an average level 8 public servant who drives 2 cars, who builds a house. I mean, this is common knowledge. Everybody knows. Now, we ask ourselves a question. His savings for 30 years, I think all through his service years, can he actually afford to buy this car? But the problem we have is just like the proverbial monkey that was locked up in the cage, and you put a bunch of ripe banana in that cage, and you stand outside with a cane in your hand, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and you warn the monkey not to eat the banana, and you lock the monkey there with cane in your hand outside the cage. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. The monkey will think twice. What is the alternative for God here? If I eat this banana, I will survive. The worst will come is that this man will kill me. After so much, he will kill me. But if I am afraid to eat this banana, I will die. That is where we have gotten to. That everybody wants to dip hands into the treasury and all of that. And the incentives for corruption is all over the place. So I will do more in the area of blocking the leakages. Because also in the course of my carrying out study, fraud survey, I discovered that for you to, if you allow 10 naira to be stolen, you spend an average of between 3 naira 50 kobo and 4 naira 50 kobo to recover it. That is even if you are able to recover the 10 naira. But for you to prevent the stealing of 10 naira, you spend less than 1 naira. So which one is the more effective tool to fight corruption? Without downplaying the importance of enforcement, why can't we challenge more on prevention and let it begin with these allo chambers today? We discovered that in Nigeria, there is nowhere to run to. So I want to plead with these allo chambers. There is what we call transactional credit system. If we continue to allow Nigerians to buy houses, cash, to buy cars, cash, we don't have a very effective credit system. 1,000 EFCC added to 1 million ICPC will not do us any good. And that is the reality. We must create that atmosphere as lawmakers for people to have choices. Look, if I don't steal money, can I afford to train my children in school? Minimum standard. if I don't steal money, can I buy a car after I've worked for 5 years? If I don't steal money, can I at least put 3-bedroom bungalow in place after I've worked for 15, 20 years? An average Nigerian doesn't have a hope. When he has the opportunity, he will steal. And even if he doesn't have it, he will create one. And so you will not leave the law enforcement agencies and the anti-corruption agencies to start running after them. Finally, distinguished senators, sir, I'd like to also for us to encourage our criminal justice system to work. We must, if we really want to fight corruption, anywhere the fight of corruption succeeds in the world, the substance is taken above technicalities. We must encourage our criminal justice system to advocate in such a way that max, prosecution doesn't take more than 5 years, max from cost of first instance to Supreme Court. And I know these ILO chambers can begin to work on that very seriously. And so if we make our criminal justice system work, you will see more of what the anti-corruption agencies are doing. And it will be better for all of us. On this note, I'd like to thank you very much, and I want to leave you with this. I did a survey between 2018 and 2020 of 50 entities in Nigeria. 50 entities, both human and corporate entities, between 2018 and 2020. And I picked just one scheme, one species of fraud, which is called contract and procurement fraud. And I discovered that between 2018 and 2020, 3 years, Nigeria lost 2.9 trillion. 2.9 trillion. Now, when I put my figures together, I discovered that this money, if we had saved, if we had prevented it, would have given us 1,000 kilometers of roads. In addition to that, we would have built close to 200 standard schools, tertiary institutions. In addition to that, we would have educated about 6,000 children from primary to tertiary levels at 16 million per child. We would have delivered 20,000 units of 3-bedroom houses across the country, and even more. We would have given us a world-class teaching hospital in each of the 36 states of the Federation. This is where we are coming from. This is where we are. Where we are going to go depends on the decision we take this afternoon. Thank you very much.
Distinguished colleagues, we don't clap in the Senate. So for the strangers who are privileged to enter the hallowed chambers, please, this is not a lecture hall, so don't clap. We gave him the opportunity to introduce himself and to say one or two things, and he has done so. He's left to the distinguished senators to ask questions, but please, do not clap. Because the same way you are clapping, if he doesn't answer the question well, you also boo. So do not boo. Yes, let's start from the leadership. Distinguished Senator Ndume.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sitting as chair. Sir Michael. I'm Senator Alindume, representing Borno South. Mr. President?
Please, can you get him a seat to sit? Huh? If you collapse here, you'll be disqualified. Senator Dube, you have the floor.
Mr. President, sitting as chair and distinguished colleagues, let me start by congratulating you being a person that I know, not much, but closely, you worked with Magu when you were consulting, and you also worked as his chief of staff. Later you became a secretary, and now a pastor. I don't know when you became a pastor, but along the way. Now, I have two questions. But before I do that, I want to make some small clarification as the leadership on the behalf. This much talked about Section 2.1 is being misinterpreted in the sense that it is talking about a certain qualification or equivalent. Looking at the CV of the person standing before us, as I said, he has been in the system for 10 years now, or in the AFCC, and even being the secretary. I don't think there will be any other equivalence of experience than that. So that should settle the issue of Section 2.1. My question, actually, is that the institutions responsible for fighting corruption includes the NFIU, the FATF is, you are a member, or the EFCC is a member, even though it has no statutory body. The EFCC itself, and the ICPC, the DSS, looking at what they are doing now, and the police, of course, the CID. And when I looked at the laws establishing or detailing the responsibilities of this organization, I find it so many places conflicting. The NFIU was under your organization when you were there, and you are also there when it was removed, and you are also there when an act establishing it as an independent agency was passed by the National Assembly.
Point of order. Mr. President, sitting as chair, distinguished colleagues, I write pursuant to Order 8, subsection 3, to move for an extension of time to enable us complete the proceedings for the day. I so move, Mr. President.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, I rise to second the motion moved by Leader of the Senate that the Senate do extend the time for our sitting to make sure we complete what is before us. I do second, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, a motion has been moved and seconded that this hallowed chamber do extend its sitting beyond 2 o'clock to enable us exhaust the items on the order paper. Those who are in support of the motion say aye. Those who are against say nay. The ayes have it. The time is hereby extended. Proceed.
Mr. Nominee, as I was saying, the responsibility or even the law establishing your agency and that of FIU, which is now domiciled in Central Bank, in the section 6 and 7, you are supposed to be working also with the Central Bank. But NFIU was under the, and as I said, from what you do, there are conflicts. So that takes me to my first question. The purpose or the reason why EFCC was established in 2002 during the government of Obasanjo was because Nigeria was excluded for non-compliance as one of the 23 countries that are non-compliant. You know that better than myself. Now that we are in there, and if NFIU is established with these responsibilities, which was in the EFCC Establishment Act, don't you see conflict there? That is one. Secondly, now takes me to my second question. I see the powers you have in section 6 and 7. The silent one there is the most important, and that is the unexplained wealth order. I'm happy you have talked about being preventive instead of being reactive. Every time I have a problem with anybody, I'll just write a petition to EFCC, especially we politicians. Before you know, EFCC will call the reporters before you arrive, and they paint you black or even red because that's your color. Before you get out of that, your children, your family are embarrassed. We got a situation where when we are campaigning for a position, I won't mention, the person we are campaigning for was invited to AFCC on a frivolous matter, and it was in the papers. Now, the second question which I ask is that this now gives us the chance. You are saying that we should cooperate. We promise you that we will cooperate with your agency, if confirmed, to take more preventive actions. The countries that are leading the NFIU, that is Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, UK, USA, and even Canada and Zimbabwe, you know, have the unexplained wealth order. And that is not conviction. If you find Rolls Royce in Rolls Royce, you call it, in leader's house.
You mean minority leader's house?
Or
minority
or let me use example of myself.
Or minority leader.
Why are you insisting on minority leader? Okay, minority leader. Now you have a cause to quietly invite him and find out how or where did he get the money to buy Rolls Royce. And if he explains to you, that is the end of the matter. If he cannot explain to you, you quietly take that is the forfeiture you talk about. But instead, as I was doing my research before you came in 2022, you left in August this year, isn't it? In 2022, you are flagging over 200, is it 2,000 something convictions? But all is minor crime that if you add up, does not total to one crime, financial crime committed by an individual, which I will not mention, and then the EFCC allowed him to go home on a self-recognition. All they could do was, getting to 1 year now, all you could do, or you could do, was to recover 10% of that money. What will you do, Pastor, as God-fearing person? These are the two questions. Thank you. And I hope I have covered our flank so that we just...
Honestly, I needed to allow Senator Ndume to ventilate his heart because his heart was very troubled when he came in. The example you gave is good that you use the minority leader on that Rolls Royce. So please, any other person that is speaking, point at this side. If you have an unexplained aeroplane. You point at this other side, Senator Abaribe. The people on this side have no business with Rolls Royce and plane. I would like to pause there. You have the questions. You have the questions. Yes, sir. Let me invite the secretary to introduce himself so that any of them can answer the questions. So I will take the two at the same time, if the Senate so permits. Is that the view of the Senate? Yes.
I wish to stand on the existing protocol led by my distinguished chairman, but I have to recognize my senators from Adamawa State. Adamawa Central, distinguished Senator Aminu Iya Abbas. Adamawa South, distinguished Senator Binas Dauda Yaro. And Adamawa North, distinguished Senator Amos Yahona. I stand before you here as nominee of Mr. President for the Secretary of Economic and Financial Crime Commission. Therefore, this is to inform you that my name is Muhammad Hassan Hamajoda. I was born at Jera, Gire District, Adamawa State, on the 20th January 1963. I started my primary school in 1970, Gire 1 Primary School. I finished Gire 1 Primary School in 1976. I proceeded to GSS Maiha, 1976 for my Form 1 secondary school. I finished Form 1 secondary 5, 1981. I proceeded to Borno State College of Basic Studies for my remedial program so that I can amend my result that will earn me admission into the university. Thereafter, I was admitted into the University of Maiduguri in 1983 to study BSc Accountancy. I graduated 1987. Thereafter, I did my NYSC in Allied Bank in Niger State. After my NYSC, I started as a lecturer at Federal Polytechnic, Mubi, from September 1989 to September 1988 to December 1988. I joined Allied Bank January 1989. Allied Bank collapsed 1996. Thereafter, I joined HB Investment, a financial consultant of the then PTF, in 1998. Thereafter, I joined Standard Trust Bank, November 1999. I resigned from Standard Trust Bank September 2000 and joined Public Service, the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, Federal Ministry of Finance, as Assistant Chief Accountant level 13. Thereon, I retired as Director, Finance and Accounts of the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation. Thank you, sir.
What year did you say you retired?
January 2023.
You retired on level 13? 17. You retired on level 17?
Yes.
Because when you said you were promoted to level 13, you didn't go beyond that. So you retired as a director from the Federal Ministry of Finance on level 17. Okay. Is there have you worked in the EFCC before?
Yes. during my stay in the office of the Accountant General, I was posted to EFCC December 2003, thereon up to 2009. Then I was posted out of EFCC May 2009. Thereafter, I came back to EFCC on the 4th of July 2020 again. And thereafter I retired on the 20th January 2023.
So we have a very rounded retired director from the Federal Ministry of Finance, Mohammed Hassan Hamajoda, a nominee of Mr. President, for confirmation as Secretary of the EFCC. I think we can afford to get you a seat next to the chairman in case there's any question you need to answer. Senator Gomer, let somebody put a seat next to the chairman. Chairman, so you can take the floor again. You have rested now, so you can faint. So take the floor. Yes, any further question? Let's start from distinguished Senator, distinguished Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues. My name is Simon Mwadkon. I'm from Plateau State, and I represent Plateau North. Mr. Nominee, Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. I think by your designation, you are supposed to fight economic and financial crimes to create accountability and transparency in governance and in all sectors of the economy. I have a small story, Mr. President. I was once a local government chairman, and somebody wrote a frivolous petition against me. Your people or the commission, without any investigation, detained me for several days. After investigation, I was released, and it was close to an election time. So I understood at the end of the day that the petition was just meant to make me lose the next election. But the question I have is that, don't you think that if a petition is written on someone for financial or economic crime, you should do your due diligence investigation before inviting and detaining the person? Because otherwise, you end up detaining innocent people, and at the end of your investigation, you find out the person has not committed the crime. Then what should the person do? Should he also sue you for detaining him, unlawfully? So my own question is that, are you supposed to just invite and detain a person on a petition from anybody? Or you must have concrete evidence that that crime have actually been committed? Number two, at least the hunter becomes the hunted. The EFCC is not also free of financial crime. I heard you say that there's that possibility if you are allowed to investigate the Senate President. So who will investigate the EFCC, sir? The House. So we also have the capacity to investigate you. So as you do your work, I want to advise that the EFCC should not be used as an instrument to fight political opponent. Because we have seen this clearly, that if you don't like my face, or if I'm contesting an election, for example, against the Senate president, and because of his status, you may decide to wail into political issues instead of fighting political, economic crimes. And therefore, you take side. For example, this side of the divide, they are the ones in government now. And if I'm running an election with any one of them, they can use you. You have to tell this Senate that you will be immune of being used by any political high-level person to fight innocent Nigerians or label innocent financial crimes against them to deter them from achieving their rights to contest elections. He said not only elections, any other thing. So please, because the only way you can prove to us that you are right to fight economic crimes is for us to see that transparency in you. It's for us to see that you are not being used by somebody. Tell us, assuming President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will say today, go and investigate, assuming but not considering, go and investigate such a person, and you know that the person is not guilty, even if he's guilty, will you follow the due diligence of the law to do that investigation? Finally, I was doing it, sir. Finally, is there no synergy between the EFCC and the ICPC? Because in my own instance, I was investigated on the same issues by these two agencies. Is there no synergy that if EFCC is investigating Mr. A on crime ABC, ICPC should not be doing the same thing on the same grounds or the same charges? Thank you.
Well, let me say that if we are to ask questions today, we will not be able to live here for our retreat. Because the reality is that we should look at the two gentlemen and find out whether they are fit for the purpose. And they can answer one or two things, and then they can mention their vision. We will continue to interact with them. We will re-invite them because we are the ones oversighting them. And we have to do our job. You are aware that EFCC has a lot of questions to answer. And so this Senate in future intends also to look into the activities of EFCC. Am I right? You are talking about yourself. It means that the person who wrote petition against you when you were a local government chairman was not a high-profile person. That is why you were not even invited by DSS. That is why you were not invited by the IG. But what about where you have invitation to appear before DSS, appear before the IG, appear before the ICPC, appear before the EFCC, and it's all organized? How do you explain 98 petitions written against one human being, and none of them has any merit? So he has, what you are indirectly asking him is how will he treat frivolous petitions against politically exposed persons, which of some, all those investigations also cost money, taxpayers' monies. At the end, you don't find anything against that person, and the country has lost a lot of money. So these things are there. So, Chairman, incoming Chairman, if approved, just proceed to answer just a few questions, but don't lecture also. Just answer a few questions, and then so that we can release you to go and start work, if you are approved.
Thank you. Thank you, most distinguished Senate President. I'd like to address the question posed by distinguished Senator Dume. As regards the NFIU, FATF, and the establishment of NFIU, rather. Now, those provisions you refer to, sir, in EFCC that are still there, that also similar to what NFIU is doing. Those provisions are being repealed automatically by the enactment of the NFIU Act. But again, when it comes to issue of money laundering and all that, there is no way we can rule out the possibility of areas of overlap. There's no way. But specifically, when it comes to the statutory function of NFIU, all those relevant provisions in EFCC Act have been repealed by the virtue of the establishment of the NFIU and the enactment of the NFIU Act. Now, sir, you also ask questions about unexplained wealth order. You try to relate it to media trial, but all what I'm going to say is that the mandate given by EFCC, the mandate given to EFCC was given to EFCC by law. Any attempt to do anything outside that mandate is going to be deemed as also violating the provision of the law. And so if I have given the opportunity, I stand before you. I was also an officer in the Temple of Justice. We are going to do our work diligently with utmost respect to the provisions of the law. You can't fight anti-corruption successfully without respect to the provisions of the law. I make that pledge before you, sir. Now, distinguished senator from Plateau, I didn't get his name very well. I'm sorry about that. Senator Simon, thank you, sir. Distinguished Senator Simon. Minority, thank you, sir. Now, you raised the issue of due diligence before invitation and all of that. Now, a professional investigator will tell you that before you can invite anyone, at the point of invitation, you must have done 90% of your work. A thorough investigator should know that. That is what we call predication in investigation. When you receive a petition, you look at it, you carry out a preliminary investigation. And when having established predication, then you can now probably begin to look into other areas. And if now you must bring in the person, that will almost be the last lap of investigation. And I want to also say that there could be exceptions to that rule of predication as well. For example, if you know that the person may escape out of jurisdiction, and that could vitiate the process of your investigation, and you need to bring in this person to make statement and all of that, then perhaps it may be expedient for you to put some certain processes in place and just to ensure that the person does not escape because you have already started your investigation. Now, that is an exception to the rule. But the general application is that of predication. You must have done your work. This is financial crime investigation. It's not combatant matter. It's not war. What you need is the brain and technology. We will get to a point that at a press of a button, we can look at the financial, activities of everybody. So that makes the job easier for you. So you don't even have to start running after people carrying AK-49, hounding people all over the place. That's not the best way to investigate financial crimes. That's why we call it white-collar crimes. Now, we also, the senator also raised the issue of political opponents. I'd like to submit, sir, with every sense of commitment to duty. This issue of, investigating political opponents is neither here nor there. There are two salient questions that must be asked and answered. Number one, has the person committed crime? Has he committed financial crimes? If he has, then I will have cause to investigate him. If you are in the ruling party, if you dip your hands into what you are not supposed to dip your hands into, you will be called to question. Well, you are in the opposition, you swallow sandpaper that will not digest, you will also be called to answer questions. So the mandate that the law gives us, or gives EFCC, did not discriminate. And the question is, okay, of course, there's no way you will not pick people who have, find people who have committed crime and all of that, financial crimes. This is where equity and justice comes in. So you will not be seen as chasing a particular section or, send that, signal across to people that you are always chasing a particular set of people. And that's where we are going to balance the whole thing. That's what I have to say about that. So we are going to be guided strictly by our mandate. And finally, the synergy between FCC and ICPC. Some years ago, I was privy to developing an MOU between the FCC and ICPC to the extent that we don't want to begin to do things that at the end of the day will end up in double jeopardy. So I remember then the acting executive chairman and the chairman of ICPC, and including myself and the secretary of ICPC, we had a couple of meetings. And we developed that MOU, but I'm not sure that MOU has been executed. Now, if I'm given the opportunity to be confirmed, one of the first things I'm going to do is to ensure that that MOU is executed so that will form a kind of working relationship between ICPC and EFCC, so that we'll be able to look, if ICPC is investigating someone using Nigerian taxpayers' money, why should I dissipate energy and resources to investigate? If perhaps it's the same, the facts are similar, I don't think that is going to be the interest of of the nation. Thank you very much. That's all I have to say about the questions.
Let me ask a question based on what you just said. Will you subscribe to a merger of ICPC and EFCC in order not to continue with this duplicity? That's one. Yes, because if you do so, the hallowed chambers of both houses can look at that to avoid double jeopardy. That's one. It will be necessary to look at the possibility of merging the two, so that we don't continue with hounding Nigerians. And then, Senator Alero.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Muhammad Adamu Aleru. I represent KB Central. Mr. Nominee, let me congratulate you once more. I have a very simple question for you. Most of the investigations are concentrated on government and governmental agencies. You hardly hear of investigations going on in financial institutions until recently, when the CBN came into satellite. And we know very well that crimes are committed more in the banking sector or in private sector. I will give you an example. I happen to be in the Banking and Financial Institutions Committee, and we had oversight visit on AMCON, and they told us that they have well over 5 trillion naira, which is in the hands of very few Nigerians. Actually, only 22, yes, only 22 people. And this is a very big financial crimes. Most of it is abuse of office by corporate individuals. And some of these individuals are highly placed. EFCC is doing investigation on them. And AMCON has been expecting to recover this money from these 22 individuals. 5 trillion naira is capital budget of Nigeria of 2021-2022. And you just read a piece of paper what 2 trillion naira can do for Nigeria. Now, these 5 individuals are having more than 5 trillion naira, and nothing is being done on them. But you hear of EFCC arresting a governor for misappropriating 200 million naira, arresting the governor for misappropriating 500 million naira. While there are individuals that are holding this 5 trillion naira, you are doing nothing about it. Nigerians want to know what will you do to recover this money. And most of this money is backed by a guarantee. Nothing is being done to recover this money by using the guarantee. Why are you silent on that? Why is EFCC silent on that? We want to know what you will do to recover this money. This is taxpayers' money. At a particular time, the governor of Central Bank had to release well over 1.5 trillion naira to recapitalize the bank because of serious misappropriation, serious corruption going on. And up to now, this money has not been recovered. So we would like to know your approach to this. Thank you, Mr. President.
Well, distinguished Senator Alero, actually, if I were to ask the chairman nominee, the reality is that I think that EFCC has engaged more on sensation than on real investigation. Like the minority leader pointed out, it was a local government chairman, and election was coming. For me, I've had my own share, where even a letter informing EFCC that I would not be able to come on a frivolous petition was released by the office of the chairman of EFCC to Sahara reporters. You see the chairman's stamp on it. He released it to Sahara reporters just to embarrass me because of 2023 elections. But to the glory of God, I surmounted it, I'm here. You know, so for me, I don't think we should waste time with the EFCC. We need to take a thorough look at the EFCC and look at whether the act setting up the EFCC even allows them to function, because there's too much discretion. I don't see how the EFCC will go and arrest a former governor and come through the rooftop as if they are taking Pablo Escobar yeah, but it happened. It happened to Rocha Sokorocha. They came through the roof. They broke through the POP, and it was calling live. Nigerians were the whole world watched. They removed the roof, went through the POP, broke it down, and they were going down with guns. Is that EFCC? And for you, that is investigation. So what I would like to hear from you will be, what will you do differently? Because outside this country, sometimes they can follow somebody for 5 to 10 years until they establish evidence before they invite that person. But they keep embarrassing people's children, traumatizing the children, stigmatizing people because they had the opportunity to be in public office. And even within the FCC, properties that you recover, monies you recover, are stolen. People's properties that are supposed to be in your care are stolen and sold out at ridiculous prices. Properties worth 5 billion are sold for 300 naira because it is EFCC. So for me, EFCC, I have my own opinion about EFCC. So I welcome you, Chairman. So I don't want to comment on EFCC, but I know that. No, I know that this hallowed chamber has the gavel, and we have the right to review the law setting up EFCC for proper functionality and effectiveness. Am I speaking the minds of senators? Yes. Senator Abbas, close it.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Senator Aminu Iya Abbas, Adamawa Central. Mr. President, this is my first home, the EFCC. Yes, I was here in the EFCC. I was among the first 10 people to be employed in the EFCC. And I was part of the COS1 of the EFCC. As I stand, I was a member of COS1 of EFCC. And even senior to the former chairman of the EFCC. But my boss is here, Mr. President. Hamajoda. Hamajoda was my boss, but I came before him into FCC. But we worked together as cashier while he was the auditor of the commission. He's a straightforward person. He doesn't tolerate illegality, which Senator Nkombo will attest to that, because he worked under him. And with all the shortcomings of EFCC, Mr. Senate President, I'm in line with what you have said, to strengthen the commission by changing the status or amending the status of EFCC. With this, I want to urge my fellow colleagues, distinguished senators, to allow the two gentlemen to take a bow and leave, because a lot have been said, a lot of questions have been asked. We should allow them to take their bow and take the leave of the chamber. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mike. Well, is that the mood of the chambers? The chairman, just to mention that I've actually seen that you have appeared before the Senate before, and you were cleared. You were cleared on the 28th day of November 2018 as Secretary of the EFCC. You didn't mention that, so that was important. It means that this Salo chamber had already scrutinized you and given you a clean bill of health. And then you serve as Secretary of the EFCC after the clearance by the Senate. You should have told us. We wouldn't have wasted so much time. Move forward, come forward and take a bow. You can take leave of the Senate. Distinguished colleagues, Distinguished colleagues, will the Senate approve the nomination of Mrs. Halima Shehu for appointment as National Coordinator and Chief Executive Officer of the National Social Investment Program Agency? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, will the Senate approve the nomination of Mr. Ola Olukoyede for appointment as Chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, will the Senate approve the nomination of Mr. Muhammad Hassan Hamajoda for appointment as Secretary of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, sitting as chair, distinguished colleagues, I stand to move that the Senate revert to plenary to enable the chairman report progress. I so move, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion moved by Leader of the Senate that the Senate do revert back to plenary for chairman to report progress. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded that this Senate do revert to plenary to report progress. Those who are in support of the motion say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, the Senate in the Committee of the Whole considered the request of Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief for the confirmation of Mrs. Halima Shehu for appointment as National Coordinator and Chief Executive Officer of the National Social Investment Program Agency. The nominee answered questions on poverty alleviation and other topical issues, and the Senate approved the nomination of Mrs. Halima Shehu. Distinguished colleagues, Mrs. Halima Shehu, having been approved by this Senate for appointment as National Coordinator, is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Distinguished colleagues, the Senate in the Committee of the Whole also considered the request of Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief for the confirmation and approval of the nominees for appointment as Chairman and Secretary of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. The nominees answered questions on topical issues, and the Senate approved the nominations of Mr. Olani Pekun, Olukoyede as chairman, and Mr. Muhammad Hassan Hamajoda as secretary of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Distinguished colleagues, will the Senate confirm the nomination of Mrs. Halima Shehu for appointment as National Coordinator and Chief Executive Officer of the National Social Investment Program Agency? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Mrs. Halima Shehu is hereby confirmed as National Coordinator and Chief Executive Officer of the National Social Investment Program Agency. Distinguished colleagues, will the Senate confirm the nomination of Mr. Olani Pekun Olukoyede for appointment as Chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Mr. Ola Olukoyede is hereby confirmed as Chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. Distinguished colleagues, will the Senate confirm the nomination of Mr. Muhammad Hassan Hamajoda for appointment as Secretary of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC? Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Mr. Muhammad Hassan Hamajoda is hereby confirmed as Secretary of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. Let me thank my distinguished colleagues for the patience, the diligence, the dedication, and the painstaking manner in which we have carried out today's screening and confirmation. Topical issues have been highlighted, answers posited, and issues even became much more illuminating. So I thank all of you. Leader of the Senate. Yes, point of order, Senator Ome.
Thank you, Mr. President. Order 41, matter of urgent public importance. The matter for discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the Senate before commencement of the day's sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent. And then 51, notice shall not be dispensed with in the case of a motion or in respect of any other proceeding for which notice is required except with the consent of the President of the Senate and the general assent of the senators present. Mr. President, during the screening of the nominee for the appointment to the position of coordinator, social investment program. In the question and answer session, so many revelations were made here, which we couldn't pursue through in the course of that screening. Number one was that I asked a question on the exclusion of 167 local governments in Nigeria in the program she executed, 5,000 bi-monthly, and we discovered that from her own report contained in what she gave to us, 613 local governments were only covered, leaving a shortfall of 161 plus 6 area councils. That's 167. You noted it, Mr. President. And if you consider this, you will see that about 10 states were excluded in that program. We didn't know the local governments, we didn't know those concerned and involved. And in the course of her answer to certain questions, she also made us to understand that there were people who were paid 5,000 bi-monthly that graduated to 150,000, some to livelihood, then some to 300,000 naira. I'm aware that there was another migration to 700,000 naira. If you calculate this money, it will run into billions of naira. And a lot of Nigerians and parts of Nigerians were excluded in that program. I don't think it's something that should be left to go like that. So I want to seek your approval to bring a formal motion in the next legislative date so that we can interrogate that revelation. It's very important because we're going into what point of order again? Let me finish now. Let me finish. You put your own. You're helping me. Okay. If I finish, you help me. So, Mr. President, I would like this Senate to interrogate those revelations. You were not happy with it. A lot of us were not happy with it because people were excluded, and that will not be good. We are moving into another cash transfer program of 15 million households. They experimented it with 2 million households, and 167 local governments were not captured. So this one we're going into, we need to interrogate that one to ensure that this good program of the government will reach every part of Nigeria. I wanted her to answer why those 161 local governments were excluded. She didn't answer it. You helped her by saying that there are more time to get explanations. So if you approve, Mr. President, I would like to bring a formal motion to interrogate that in the next legislative day. Thank you, Mr. President.
And he's only asking for motion. You're not asking to do it now. It's an urgent issue.
It's not urgent now. Leave him now. It's point of order now. You don't even know what he wants to say. Let him say his own. You don't observe until they review on you. Let him say his own.
Is it a counter point of order?
It may not be.
The point of order brought forward by Senator Ume is noted. A lot of revelations were made during the screening. And even if you did not seek our permission, you could still have come up with a motion for this Senate to look into it. So your point of order is actually sustained. Now, just to mention, yes, there's another point of order. What was that?
Mr. President, my name is Asuko Ekpenyong, Senator representing Cross River South. I come under Order 41, matter of urgent public importance. The matter for discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day's sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent. Mr. President, the cause of which the point of order was raised was after the business of the day had started and we had gone far. Matters of urgent public importance are brought after petitions and before the business of the day. I raised the point of order during the discussion. If it is late, I yield. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, distinguished Senator Asuko Ekpenyong, look at Order 52, Rule 6. Open to 52, Rule 6. Have you seen it? It shall be out of order to attempt to reconsider any specific question upon which the Senate has come to a conclusion during the session, except upon a substantive motion for rescission. So your point of order is overruled. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I rise to move a motion that the Senate do stand down all the other items on our order paper for today to enable distinguished senators rush to prepare and run to the airport to catch their waiting flight to Ikot Ekpene, Akwa Ibom State, where we are going to be having our retreat, today being the arrival date. Mr. President, I so move.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I rise to second the motion moved by Leader of the Senate. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, a motion has been moved and seconded that the Senate do suspend all the other items on the other paper for today. Those who are in support of that motion say aye. Those who are against say nay. The ayes have it. Let me thank distinguished senators and wish you joining mercies to the Rafia city of Ikot Ekpene, where the Senate President was born. And pray that you have a wonderful time with your Senate President. And also let me use this opportunity to inform distinguished senators and those traveling with me that the Deputy Senate President just returned a day before yesterday, or yesterday? A day before yesterday from India, where he led a delegation of this Senate to attend the G20 interparliamentary interaction, which is normally a follow-up to the G20 meeting. Yes, I was supposed to be there, but due to other events, he graciously accepted to go on behalf of the Senate. So you are welcome. We look forward to receiving your reports next week during the sitting. And may I also use this opportunity to inform the distinguished Senate, that the Senate President will also lead a small delegation to the International Parliamentary Union, commencing on Monday, the 23rd day of October at Angola, Rwanda, the capital of Angola. That will be. Is it Kigali? So it's not Kigali. Kigali is Rwanda. This other one is Luanda. Luanda, I think that is the capital of Angola. So that's where they are holding the Inter-Parliamentary Union. And I understand the president of the IPU will be elected on that day, and this time it is zoned to the African region. But Nigeria is not contesting. I think it's been zoned to women. I think 3 countries are contesting: Senegal, Tanzania, and one other country. But when we go there, we'll see where the pendulum swings. And so we will be aware between the 23rd of October to the 27th or thereabouts, and we'll come back. When we come back, we shall also present a report. So in my absence, the Deputy Senate President will preside. Let me also inform us that the Minority Leader of the Senate just came back with a strong delegation of members of this Hallowed Chamber from Austria. He was in Vienna to represent the Senate on another parliamentary interaction. In fact, they had parliamentary exchange program with the international parliamentary exchange program with various countries, and they learned a lot from them, and we also learned a lot. So you also, in writing, share the experiences of you and your colleagues who went for that ceremony. I think it was a 5-day event with us. The distinguished Senate President, you do the same thing with the one from India, and he will do the same with the one from Austria. And I must also thank the chairman of the Health Committee, because they just finished a major seminar with a retreat with all the chairmen and committees on health across Nigeria, including the states, the various states of the Federation. And I must thank also Senator Danjuma Goje. He went to flag off a meeting of all the State Assembly Service Commissions, as well as the National Service Commission. They are holding a retreat together to look at how to have a total synergy between the State Assembly Service Commissions and also the National Assembly Service Commission. That the retreat is ongoing. He went on my behalf while we're here to go and declare it open, and his speech was very well received. So I want to wish all of us journey mercies and pray that Almighty God will bring us back safely. Amen. Therefore, this Senate is adjourned to the 24th day of October 2023.